Hey everyone, hope you guys are doing well. Sorry about being late. I'd scheduled a live stream and I was coming back from a theme park and ultimately got home a little bit later than expected, but sorry once again. Just wanted to make sure that I actually went live before the deadline. Tried to make, as much as possible this season one where I tried to meet every single deadline. So thank you guys so much for being here. Appreciate you guys for staying as well. Let's quickly get started with the questions though, obviously. So JP says, hi, Fran. He says, do you think Newcastle can park the bus versus Liverpool like Man United did? I mean, to be honest, Man United were also quite fortunate, I would say, to not have conceded versus Liverpool. I know the Liverpool performance wasn't great versus Man United, but ultimately they created enough chances where I think when you look at the game, they probably should have scored in circumstances like that. So if Newcastle are going to defend like United did, I do think that's still going to be something that ends quite poorly for Newcastle on paper. And ultimately, with how poor Newcastle have been too, I'd be quite shocked if Newcastle were able to sort of actually keep a clean sheet versus Liverpool away from home. And really, we don't often like to say this because it's something that's very subjective, but Newcastle have, of course, played an extremely tough schedule, particularly with a very, very small squad. So that is definitely going to have an impact on Newcastle. I think we've seen it in terms of just general sort of recent results. So yeah, I think Newcastle will almost certainly not keep a clean sheet. Um, John Wick, yeah, pretty much agree with what you said. Alfred, nice to see you around. Start Darwin and Kunku. I'd probably start Kunku, to be honest. I think it's close though. Um, Ultimately, both are non-penalty takers, but it's actually quite a good fixture for the two of them. I think both of them will start. It's quite a good coin toss, to be honest, but I quite like Nkunku, to be honest. The thing about Darwin is that even though he's gotten more rest, the issue I suppose is that Jota can always come in as a late sub, and there's no reason really why Jota can't come in at 75 minutes. Assuming that, for example, given the rest, Salah's going to play 90 minutes once again, you're probably looking at Luis Diaz and Gakpo, one of them, of course, sort of alternating spots in the left wing position, and that's not necessarily good, as I said, due to the sort of Darwin to Jota um, option. So yeah, I think I like Nkunku, even though of course him coming back from fitness, he's sort of had managed minutes. Gordon replacements, I think I'm not sure if I'd be recommending Richarlison now. To be quite honest, I think Bowen or Foden make a lot of sense. DJ Nature, I think, has it with the nail on the head there. Just because also with Odegaard, I'm not sure Fulham away is like that elite of a fixture. Um, Thoughts on Foden cap? I think that's perfectly good. In fact, let's actually just quickly start with a captaincy poll. Personally, I think my top four captains this week are Alvarez, Foden, Salah, and then Son. And I might even say it's actually in that order too. So let's just quickly do a Game Week 20 captaincy poll. Um, so for me, those are the four options. I know some people are actually going to be thinking about Solanke as well. That's totally fine. Ultimately, though, I still like my home fixtures. We've got plenty of home fixtures to actually play between Alvarez, Salah, Foden, etc., etc. I'm going to be going with Alvarez captain. I'm pretty comfortable with that. I've got one free transfer. Yes, that's correct. I will be rolling my free transfer this week. Um, um, yeah, that's pretty much it. Sorry, just quickly looking at any leaks potentially that we've had. It doesn't actually seem like we have any leaks, which is obviously a bit of a shame. If I had actually some leaks, I would probably consider, um, you know, maybe going around. Hmm, tough one actually. I'd probably actually consider maybe going for, let's say, Cash over Gabriel if I had a leak. Absolutely that he was going to start. Hmm. Yeah, I still can't really see any potential leaks. Thank yous. So in terms of the City lineup, I think it's very likely to be Alvarez, Grealish, Silva, Foden, Rodri, Kanji, Diaz, Walker, Ederson. 50-50s, of course, on Lewis versus Mateus Nunez and Guardiola versus Ake. Pretty hard, I think, to actually pick between the two of them. So not too helpful, really. I do think Walker's pretty nailed on to play. So if you're looking at Walker as a transfer, I think that makes a lot of sense. Um, I mean, Bob, of course, could be interesting in terms of Oscar Bob, but I think it's also pretty unlikely, if we're honest. Yep, sorry. Just quickly, just checking. Hmm. Doesn't actually seem like we have anything to suggest that, yeah, we're going to get any Aston Villa leaks, nor are we going to get leaks for other teams. Haven't seen anything right now. Sorry, I've just been quickly checking, just in case we actually get anything, because unfortunately I've been away from home for a while and had to make sure that I could check the news. But yeah, it doesn't really seem like there's anything really to suggest that we have any news. Monks, thank you so much for the donation. You've asked, would you rather captain Salah or Foden? Personally, honestly, I think when you have a choice to maybe go against the field with an amazing pick like Foden versus Sheffield United at home, I am someone who generally likes to seek risk when I think, for example, two options are very, very good. And in this instance here, where I think Salah honestly is comparably good to Foden this week, and Foden's going to be the differential, I would actually rather captain Foden because I would be seeking that differential. But of course, it really depends on your play style as well. So, if you're, for example, scared of the effective ownership of Salah, it makes perfect sense to go with Salah as well, just because I think if I was, let's say, to project their points, I'd probably have them very close. So it really just depends on your risk appetite, I would say. But I would actually be going with Foden, much in the same way that I've actually gone with Alvarez captain myself. And someone asked if I would go Foden or Alvarez captain. I would still go Alvarez. Personally, I like my pen takers, also set pieces, etc., etc. Noah had Huang with a 59 pointer. That is awesome. Really glad you're doing well, Noah. So congratulations. Start Tarkovsky or Matty Cash. I'd probably still go Matty Cash. I know it's Wolves away, but Burnley at home I think is worth tapping into ultimately for Matty Cash. Solanke is sell for Alvarez. I don't think Solanke is a sell. The biggest thing about Solanke too is that he's probably going to have a double game week in the future. And in general, I actually see Solanke as a pick that you can actually keep in the long term. So I don't really like a move like Solanke for Alvarez, if I'm honest. Would you sell Gordon for Foden? Absolutely, I would do Gordon to Foden. I think if I had Gordon this week, I would definitely be moving into Foden. Double Arsenal defense or Trippier? I would probably go double Arsenal defense. I think Trippier just has a shocking fixture. Is Gordon worth having this game week? No, not at all. I mean, this is a really bad fixture for Gordon, so I would say no. Isaac to Alvarez or Gordon to Silva? I much prefer Isaac to Alvarez. Just because if you think about it, right, Gordon's minutes are so much better than Isaac's. So generally speaking, like I would get more guarantees from Gordon anyways on any fixture. Not to mention that I think Alvarez in general just is a better pick than Silva. Obviously, I know Silva outscored Alvarez last week, but just game week to game week, that's my general sort of I think decision. What's your best differential captain this week? Personally, honestly, a Man City attacker is what I would say. Um, is Foden a better pick than Richarlison for the AFCON period? I'm not so sure, to be honest, because I think the biggest thing about Richarlison is that I haven't really been able to tell from Andrew's press conferences whether or not Richarlison's actually being benched because of the back issue, or if he's actually being benched because he's playing pretty poor. So from that context, I think it's quite tough to say. The issue with Foden as well is if, let's say, Haaland and Foden come back, then during the AFCON period, of course, both Foden and Alvarez will potentially lose minutes. So it really just depends on the recovery of the City players as well for Foden. But in general, of course, if you're thinking about Game Week 20 onwards, like I think if you're including Game Week 20, then I think it's Foden for sure. But since you're, for example, excluding Game Week 20, I'm going to actually say Richarlison could still be better, assuming that first of all, Son is out for a while, which means, of course, more minutes for Richarlison, either on the left or even a central position. And that obviously that back issue would hopefully be alleviated, I suppose, later on. Uday Gaming, I'm probably not going to check Discord today. I don't really have time because the chat's moving very quickly. Start Palmer or Solanke. I would still go with Palmer personally. I think they both have good away fixtures on paper, but sometimes I just prefer my midfielders, right? In terms of Palmer over Solanke, you just goal scores, goal scored, of course, sort of bonus creation as well, just through naturally being a creative player. I think I'd probably side with Palmer just about over Solanke. Start Dallo or Gabriel alongside Trent Alexander-Arnold. I would start Gabriel still personally. How much value do you think Salah is going to lose because you're debating selling him or not? I think it makes sense to have a plan potentially to keep Salah or Son, one of the two of them. I think last time someone mentioned that Salah went to AFCON, he had apparently dropped at least 0.3. So I hope that's illustrated for you. Start Konsa or Gabriel? I would definitely start Konsa. I still think he has a better fixture when it comes to clean sheets. It's Burnley at home. Very, very good fixture. Bournemouth are going to smash Spurs. They very well could. I know people like to see, for example, a game like the Brighton one and say that Spurs are going to get smashed. But think about, Spurs even actually got a draw versus Man City at the Etihad, if I remind you, with this same horrific backline. So I don't think it's necessary to say that Bournemouth are going to absolutely smash Spurs. I know Bournemouth have been on a great run of form, but the reality too is that the Spurs team is still a very competent team. 0.3 is not much at all. I may keep him. I think that makes sense. Obviously, one of the things too is if you're keeping Salah, you need to make sure, of course, that the other 7 attackers that you have in the forward positions and the midfield positions are good enough, right? Because obviously 3 to 4 game weeks, without Salah, it could be quite significant. So it just really depends on who you have. Start Konsa or Gusto. I'd probably still go with Konsa. Bench Bailey, Sterling, Kudush, Salah or Saka. I think I would probably start Kudush because I think either he's injured, right, and he can't play, or he won't. And then I would probably play Bailey, Salah, and Saka. So I'd probably bench Sterling in this situation. Yeah, because I think if Kudush doesn't play, then Sterling is just going to come on for you, right? So, but I still think Kudush has a slightly better fixture than Sterling. Start Colwill or Trippier. I think I'd start Colwill, to be honest. Even though I think Colwill's shown really poor fitness and he hasn't been able to play too much. I'm also going to end the poll. Very interesting to see Alvarez higher than Salah. I would imagine a lot more people actually own Salah than they do own Alvarez. So that's interesting. No defense, no midfield. This is Bournemouth for Spurs, isn't it? Yeah, I see what you mean, obviously. But yeah, as I said, this Spurs team have been able to pull out some pretty magical results in some very tough fixtures. Why not Captain Watkins? Personally, I just think lack of penalties. His competing sort of his rivals right now this week have better fixtures, such as, for example, the Man City players. When it comes down to Salah, of course, as I said, it's a combination of penalties, creativeness, and just being in the midfield position as well. Will Hwang play this game week? I'm really not sure about that. Can't really confirm. Forza Brazil says, I'm bottom of my money league, 60 points off. You're thinking of triple captaining Foden. You don't have Alvarez. This is Foden's best single game week fixture of the season. But personally, I still think that, yes, of course, it could give you a lot of gains in the short term, but you're probably still going to have a double game week this season where I still think that Foden is a worse option, right? So I would definitely not triple captain Foden. Because think about it, it is a marathon. Even if, for example, you're looking at your rivals, like you're not going to close and win the league suddenly with the triple captaincy this week, because there's going to be other options in the future. So I would wait for those double game weeks to come and then actually triple captain someone then. Oh, Yassine actually says Hwang has been cleared to play. Perfect. That's a great fixture to play, Hwang. Okay, thank you so much for the super chat. You're saying morning, Fran. Bench 1, Solanke, Palmer, Saka. Tough. Honestly, I think I might consider benching someone between Saka or Solanke. I'd probably actually bench Saka. I just think the fixture's so good for Solanke. And ultimately, Saka has been a little bit poor still. Tough one, but I think I would actually bench Saka. Is Darwin to Alvarez essential? Absolutely not. I really don't think so. Dimitri, thank you so much for the super chat as well. Would you play Darwin and save the free transfer or use it? I would definitely play Darwin. I actually really wanted to play Darwin, and who knows? We've got 33 minutes left in the deadline, and I still might actually go Darwin over Richarlison, but hard to say. I'm just gonna quickly check if we actually have any sort of leaks. Hold on. Yeah, just in case we actually have any leaks, I just think it would make sense for me to actually quickly check. Um, yeah, we we've got no leaks, unfortunately. Um, hmm, yep, can't really confirm anything. That's a bit of a shame. I would have loved to play cash. I don't even know if it's worth a gamble for me. Yeah, I just think I've got so many guarantees with Gabriel starting. I can't justify playing cash right now without a leak, for example. Surely it's Palmer over Hwang this week. I think it's actually pretty close if we're being honest. Both penalty takers. Um, when we think about fixtures as well, Luton away, because it's away, I think it is comparable, for example, to Everton at home. I would still probably start Palmer, obviously, but Hwang is very easily someone that I would play. I'd probably actually play Hwang over Saka, potentially, um, depending on how you feel about, let's say, Hwang and his sort of fitness. So if you think Hwang's not going to play, for example, 90 minutes, then I would just bench Hwang. Um, yeah, I think Hwang over Saka actually could make sense. Can you talk over the captaincy choice? Absolutely. I mean, first of all, it is the best fixture in the season for any player really in the game. I don't really care that Watkins blanked. Ultimately, if Eddie and Kedia can score a hat trick, then suggests something about the quality of the fixture. But on a more serious note, it is actually the reality that Sheffield United have been the worst defense in the league, both in terms of actual goals conceded and also expected goals conceded. And then second of all, when you're looking at the competing picks, um, Alvarez, Foden, Salah, Son. The only person who doesn't have penalties is Foden. Probably in terms of creativeness, I would say I'd put Foden and Salah up there higher than Son and Alvarez. But Alvarez also has set pieces too, which is a bit of an intangible. An intangible actually that Salah doesn't have necessarily. That Son only shares a little bit of because Porro of course is there. And yeah, ultimately I think because Alvarez has all the intangibles like set pieces, like penalties, like the fixture, I do really like Alvarez for this week as well, personally. Start Solanke or Richarlison. Honestly, I would probably go Solanke because I think with Richarlison, there's a bit of a risk with his minutes. Recently, of course, this back issue has been a little bit problematic. I would definitely start Solanke if I own Solanke, for example. I think I'd start him over Richarlison. But because I own Darwin, I think Darwin, for example, is a little bit behind Solanke, um, especially since I can't be sure about Darwin's minutes, right? What I like about players like Solanke, or even, for example, if I was, let's say, to compare Gabriel to Matty Cash, I think if I knew Matty Cash was going to play 90 minutes, I would definitely play Matty Cash over Gabriel. But the issue, of course, with players like Darwin and Richarlison is that we can't be sure about their minutes. So I would definitely start Solanke over them because, I am someone who prefers, for example, the guarantees of someone who plays 90 minutes. And also, I'm saying that too because I had so much regret over playing Cole over Poro last week, which, of course, the I'm sure the stream would like to educate me on because I totally messed up there. Oh, Henry, thank you so much. First of all, happy holidays to you. Um, Merry Christmas to you as well. Henry, love you as well. 5 people got gifted memberships. Congratulations to all 5 of you. So, Jonah, Adeniji, Rub, Stephen, Kai, congratulations. What to do with He Chan? Jonah says. Do I start get Bowen in for him or Alvarez? I think you just start Hwang. Personally, I would just start Hwang. It's a home fixture, so I would take it. You're on Moreno captain. I do think you're a little bit crazy, my friend. But good luck because it's obviously going to be a huge differential. Um, Garnacho or Sarabia? Definitely Garnacho. I don't think it's close. First of all, Sarabia could actually easily lose minutes very soon because Neto, of course, is going to come back eventually. So Sarabia's position in the team is not guaranteed. Whereas with Garnacho, first of all, I think the biggest thing we have to say about Garnacho is the United team is shocking, but he's one of the few players who's actually shown that he's not shocking. And right now, for a player to, at 4.7, getting 90 minutes a game for United, or even, for example, just playing at least 85 minutes a game, that's insane. And given that United actually aren't in many competitions, if he's first choice, I think you're looking at a great option in Garnacho. Start Walker Estupinian. Definitely Walker. I would not be starting Estupinian this week. Bench one between Gabriel, Porro, Zinchenko, and Gross. I'd actually probably bench Zinchenko, and I just think that there might be a risk that Zinchenko could get benched because he has been making a lot of mistakes, and of course Kiwior is there. Meanwhile, Gabriel's actually played brilliantly as of late. So yeah, I'd actually probably bench Zinchenko. Hey, Fran, start Darwiz or Gordon? I would start Darwin. I just think this is a shocking fixture for Gordon, so I would bench Gordon. Um, Bowen or Foden for AFCON period, I would probably back Bowen. And the biggest reason, as I said, is if let's say KDB and Haaland are back, it's very likely that Foden could lose additional minutes. Whereas with Bowen, with, for example, Kudus out to AFCON, that's huge, right? In terms of how many minutes Bowen is guaranteed. And he's always going to be a 90-minute player anyways. But yeah, just a lot of guarantees there from Bowen. Whereas I can't guarantee beyond Game Week 20 that Foden's going to be as good of a pick. By the way, I think we're actually probably at one of the highest sort of concurrent viewer limits that we've hit on the stream. So thank you guys so much for being around. If you guys could like and subscribe, that would be absolutely lovely. Uproar, thank you so much for the super chat as well. Start Saliba, Udogi, or Estupinian. Personally, I would go... Ooh, Estupinian could be interesting. Yeah, I mean, I'd probably actually still start Saliba. I know it's boring, but I think Bournemouth will definitely score versus the Spurs team. And West Ham versus Brighton, I also think because it's an away fixture, and when you look at the quality defense between, let's say, Brighton and Arsenal, I would still take Saliba in this instance here. Actually, the clean sheet odds are very high for Arsenal still. Yes, of course, that happened last week as well for West Ham, but generally I would like to back the better defense, considering that some of the competing options actually have very tough fixtures as well. Wildcard draft. We could definitely look at a wildcard draft right now. What do you think about Bowen captaincy? Yeah, I'd probably skirt around it. I mean, I tend to sort of ignore Bowen a little bit just because he's not a penalty taker. But during AFCON, of course, I'll have to give Bowen some serious consideration. Let's actually quickly do a wildcard draft since some people were definitely asking about wildcards. So if I was wildcarding, I think I would actually get Neto as one of my goalkeepers because I think there's a pretty high chance that there's going to be a double game week as well coming in the future. So I would probably go Neto. It really just depends on who else you want to get as your other goalkeeper. It very well could just be Areola, right? Because if you go Areola and Neto, you actually save as much money as possible. Alternatively, of course, you can just go Raya if you want to back that Arsenal defense. I think that's perfectly valid. I'd probably think about keeping Porro. I would definitely sell Colwill. I might go Gusto to save a bit of money. I'd replace Cash absolutely for sure. Maybe just go Walker instead. And then, of course, the question is going to be, do I want Pedro Porro or do I want Estupinian? Now, if I think about the fixtures this week, I'm probably actually going to be going Walker, Trent, and maybe Gabriel. Walker, Trent, and Porro. So I quite like that. There's no Estupinian here, so maybe... If you have extra money, I guess you could go Estupinian over Gusto, but this is, of course, a little bit of a luxury for some managers. Now, we probably want to go out of Son into Foden, in my opinion. I would actually probably keep Salah on the draft. I'd probably go Solanke. And the reason why I'm actually going for a draft like this is because when I look at this now, biggest thing for me is that I don't really want Haaland on Game Week 21. I want Haaland on Game Week 22. So if I can go for Salah for Game Week 20, just because it's such a good fixture... I'd be captaining Alvarez this week, and then I would actually be thinking about something like rolling on Game Week 21, and then on Game Week 22, I would probably actually go, let's say, one of these players out into Haaland, and then, of course, Salah into another option in the game, a cheap option. So let me just think about what happens if I go Alvarez in, and then, yeah, so this does leave me with enough money, for example, to mess around with someone like Douglas Luiz. I could mess around with someone like Gross as well in the future. So I think Olise as well is another option that you can definitely think about. However, he doesn't have a great fixture on Game Week 21. But yeah, it's a great transfer in Game Week 22, though, bringing Olise in on that fixture. So I kind of like, for example, just starting with Salah, going no Haaland for Game Week 21, and then going back into Haaland in Game Week 22. So that would be, for example, one of the suggested drafts that I would actually go for if I was wildcarding. But let's strictly just leave this back on my current team for this week, and then we can go back to chat questions in a moment. All right, so chat questions. Arjun, thank you so much for the donation on your end. Bench Palmer or Charleston? I would definitely bench for Charleston, my friend, because Palmer coming back from a suspension, I think it just makes it guaranteed for him to play 90 minutes this week. So I definitely think it's going to be a situation where it makes more sense to bench for Charleston. Start Jackson or Colwill. I think I would definitely start Jackson. I'm also going to have to put you in timeout because you're spamming the chat. I would start Jackson, though, as I said. 27 minutes is the deadline. Correct. Bench Martinelli or Darwin. I'd probably bench Martinelli, honestly. He has been playing a bit poor, and honestly, if you can get subbed off for Reece Nelson, it probably suggests that your place in the team is a little bit contentious. Not to mention that from Martinelli's point of view, I think Havertz is coming back into the team after serving his one-game suspension. So if you think about it, Havertz is going to come in. That also means that Trossard can compete for those left-wing minutes this week. Solanke or Palmer, I would definitely still go with Palmer. I think it's very close though for a lot of managers, and I don't really mind you starting either of them. I just think sometimes midfielders, of course, benefit more from goal scored points, so I would probably take Palmer on this instance, just because generally midfielders are better. Bench Gordon or Darwin, I would probably bench Gordon 100%. I think this is a really bad fixture for all Newcastle players, so if you can bench your Newcastle players, if you can transfer them out, I think it makes sense, given that Newcastle basically have 3 bad fixtures in a row. Why Alvarez is my captain over Salah. He just has all the intangibles, and also KDB and Haaland are out, which probably means that he's guaranteed to play 90 minutes this week. So from that point of view, I think it's awesome to go Alvarez versus the easiest fixture in town. And that's pretty much why. I know Newcastle have been horrible, but honestly, it's not like Sheffield United have played any good recently. Yala says, yep, Happy New Year to you as well. I should use your 1 free transfer to go Alvarez to. I think you can go Alvarez to Archer to Alvarez. It makes sense. I probably won't take the risk on cash. I just think that I've got too many guarantees with Gabriel, so that's why I'm going Gabriel. I probably would make that transfer if you can still envision, for example, yourself not taking hits towards Haaland and giving 22. Up to you though. Would you consider Moreno as a short-term punt? I don't think I would consider it because ultimately, I think there's enough good stable options that are basically permanent players for their own respective teams for like the medium to long term. Particularly, for example, like let's say someone like Gusto that I featured, or someone like Estupiñán. Like these players will actually stay within their teams for at least 2 to 3 months, and there's not going to be any contentiousness, I suppose, about whether they're going to start or not, going forward. So I like the guarantees from some of the other players that we have in the wildcard draft that I previously did over, let's say, Moreno. I don't really have time to check Discord today, unfortunately, because the chat's absolutely buzzing. So thank you guys so much for being here. Happy sort of early New Year to you all, wherever you are in the world. I'll probably catch up with you lot, somewhere during that break. I'm also flying back to London on the 2nd of January, and I'll start making content once again back home then. So thank you guys so much for just being a part of the live stream and all. If you guys are new here, I absolutely would appreciate you liking the stream or subscribing. Bench Gabriel Zinchenko. I'd probably bench Zinchenko. I think there's a little bit of a doubt with Zinchenko at times with his start, so I'd just go with Gabriel. Gabriel Colwell, same thing there. I would just go Gabriel. Colwell, of course, fitness issues have meant that he's played reduced minutes recently, so I think Gabriel makes sense. As a Liverpool fan, you want to captain Salah. I think it makes sense as captain. Guys, I think Salah's a wonderful pick. That's why he's my vice captaincy. It's a very close and tough decision. So if you want to captain Salah, particularly since you're a Liverpool fan, nothing wrong with that. I would go for it. But I know what you're saying in terms of 40 points behind your mini league. I think if your differential is, let's say, Foden or Alvarez, I think definitely consider it. It's up to you, though. Best trip replacement. I'd probably actually pick. I mean, Porro is not too bad. Alternative, of course, the City defender makes sense. I don't think Estupiñán. I mean, if you're happy to play double Arsenal defense this week, I guess you can always go Estupiñán for the back of your bench. But I presume you're not actually looking at someone who's going to be put on your bench this week. So I don't love Estupiñán as a move to start this week, unless you're in a luxury position of having 2 free transfers. Fran, you think about switching to a 3-4-3 with Solanke being... Yeah, I think Solanke is incredible. Potentially, of course, we might actually drop Watkins in the future, right? So, for example, we see Watkins as a bit of a long-term hold, but I think Solanke will actually sort of replace Watkins in that estimation. And if we sort of move towards a 3-5-2 when Salah and Son are back, I think actually Watkins is probably going to be the player that actually drops out in terms of our FPL squads. John Wick says sell Salah or Son. I think I would sell Son this week because I think Salah just has a better fixture on paper, considering also how weak I suppose Spurs are, without Romero as well, and also how poor Newcastle have been as of late. I would probably go with Salah. Your back 3 this week is Kabore, Senesi, and S2. Not the best for Shab, if I'm being honest. Start Darwin or Douglas Luiz. I would go with Darwin personally. Adingra to Foden or Mubama to... Definitely Adingra to Foden. The only reason why I say this is because I guess you can stick 3-5-2. I might actually go Mubama to Alvarez, to be honest. Sorry, yeah. Reconsidering that, I'd probably go Mubama to Alvarez. However, the question I'd also ask is, can someone in like Adingra be replaced in the future for someone else? Like, how much money do you have left in the bank? We have the same bench except Gabriel instead of Colwell. Would you bench boost my bench? I would not. I consider the bench boost, but I really think Colwell's position in the team is a bit contentious. Just don't think it's worth it. Start Palmer or João Pedro? I would start Palmer, I would say. Still think he's a better fixture. Pau Torres news. Pau Torres will not play this game week, as far as I'm concerned. That's what we've heard from the press conference from Unai, and also sort of a reputable Aston Villa journalist that recently spoke about the matter. Quickly double checking for leaks, guys. Can't really see anything in terms of leaks, so I'll have to sort of keep it as such. It is what it is. I'm going to quickly check just in case on Twitter if we have any chance of getting some sort of leaks from an Aston Villa point of view, but I think it's pretty unlikely. Yeah, it doesn't really seem like we have any confirmation, for example, like Matty Cash or things like that. So, I'd probably say, of course, Langley, Pau's out. Langley, Konsa, Moreno are the only guarantees, and the issue, of course, is that there's almost like I guess I would say 60-40 in terms of Cash. Carlos is probably what the issue is. So yeah, that's the sort of issue right now. Steve, thank you so much for joining as a member of the channel. Appreciate you for doing that. Welcome to President. Do definitely let me know what your Discord details are, or what your sort of preferred platform is in terms of DMs or things like that. If you want, for example, one-to-one chat and sort of capabilities there. So just let me know. Thank you so much once again for being a member, and would love to have you around. John Wick says, would you bench boost double Arsenal defense for Charlton Dubravka? Probably not, to be honest. Probably not. E7 on wildcard. Which combination do I like? Raya, Trent, Walker, Estupiñán, or Areola, Trent, Porro, Gabriel? I actually like the Walker, Estupiñán variant a bit more. Would you take a -4 to do Gordon to Richarlison? I would not. I really think that Richarlison's minutes aren't amazing. It's not worth a -4 at all. I'd rather do a -4 from Gordon to Foden personally. Hey, Fran, do you see Chelsea keeping a clean sheet? Honestly, I think it's a little bit unlikely, but it's still one of the better fixtures this week. So yeah, definitely sub 50%, but it's still an okay sort of fixture. Why Alvarez captain over Salah? As I said to the chat earlier, it's a case where Alvarez has all the intangibles. KDB and Haaland are still out, so you're guaranteeing basically what should really be 90 minutes of Alvarez, unless he plays like the worst football humanly possible. And yeah, best fixture in the game. All the intangibles with penalties and set pieces, etc. So, big fan of Alvarez this week. Do I think Ake will start? I can't confirm that because I think it's a mix between, of course, Guardiola and Ake, and of course Guardiola sort of came. I believe Guardiola, of course, came on when Stones was taken off due to his injury. So in terms of match fitness, I guess both of them have played in the recent match. I'd probably, if you think about the fixtures, Sheffield United at home, you'd probably say a little bit more set pieces. Maybe I'd say Ake, but I really can't confirm that. Bench Saka, Richarlison, or Solanke. I'd probably bench for Richarlison, honestly, my friend. I'm gonna have to put you in timeout though, because try not to spam the chat, my friend. Son to Foden and Tsimikas to Trent. I prefer Son to Foden. I just think Foden has a much better fixture than Trent this week. So if you really were just choosing between the two of them, oh sorry, actually you're asking for about. I think both transfers are fantastic. Yeah, go for it. Start Nunez or Palmer. I would go Palmer. Jesus or Cunha. I'd probably go Cunha. I'm gonna have to put you in timeout though, my friend. Start Estupiñán or Saliba. I'd go Saliba. Start Nunez or Palmer. I'd start Palmer. Darwin to Alvarez or Roll. I would definitely go. I would go Alvarez if you think it's not going to block you from going for Haaland anytime soon. I think Colwell will start, but the thing is, Colwell's minutes have been shocking lately. So, to be honest, even if he starts, like there's a bit of a doubt, I suppose, with Colwell. Gordon or Solanke? I think it's Solanke. It's very, very easily Solanke. I think Gordon's a really bad fixture this week on paper. Whereas like Spurs, their defense, yeah, you can do whatever you like, really. Yeah. Sorry, guys. I'm going to have to quickly check last minute for any sort of potential leaks. Once again, as per usual, just in case. Doesn't really seem like we have any leaks, but I'm just going to quickly check some of my Twitter group chats to see if there's anything going on that I should be aware of. John Stone's apparently out for a while. Not too helpful. Hmm. Yep. Nothing that I can really see, anyways, in terms of leaks. Apologies about that. Let's just quickly go back to live chat and answering questions. Anish says Palmer, Saka, Solanke. I would probably bench. I'd honestly consider benching Saka in that instance. Odds on Arsenal clean sheet. I believe they're definitely. When am I planning to use my second wild card? A little bit later in the season, probably game week 28 to 32, somewhere around that sort of territory, to be honest. In terms of the Arsenal odds, I'll quickly try and find it for you. So Rob TFPL is someone that's very, very good to follow on Twitter, generally speaking. So he'll usually, for example, share the sort of goal scoring odds and things like that. So let's have a look. He's saying that the clean sheet odds for Arsenal, I think, are 39%, which is actually the highest this week. And Chelsea versus Luton is actually the second highest, right? So definitely, for example, as I said, I'd probably start Gabriel in most instances. Okay, I'm just talking absolute BS. Arsenal are third. Aston Villa, of course, and Man City are higher, of course. Aston Villa around 43%, Man City 61%. So yeah, obviously this is Man City's best fixture of the season. From an Aston Villa point of view, it is Burnley at home, so that's one of the big sort of differences between, let's say Arsenal were playing Fulham at home, if let's say Chelsea were playing Luton at home, they would definitely be flying above the Aston Villa clean sheets, in my opinion. But as things stand, of course, it is sort of in the order of City, Aston Villa, then Arsenal, then Chelsea. And surprisingly, actually, the Liverpool clean sheet versus Newcastle is also pretty high. It's 33%. So that puts them comfortably fifth in terms of clean sheet odds for this week, if you guys wanted to know. And then let's quickly go back to... should have quickly go back to potential leaks once again, just because we have 11 minutes left and there's not too much to really sort of look at here. Yep, no sort of additional leaks, which is all good. Quickly looking at chat now. So we have Solanke to Alvarez. I don't think that makes sense as a move at all. Personally, I would actually keep Solanke 100%, because Solanke is also very likely to have a double game week in the future. Do you think Trent is a good captain when he has big clean sheet odds? Yes, generally speaking, but the clean sheet odds this week for Liverpool are actually pretty bad in context. Would you captain Foden? Absolutely, I would consider captaining Foden. Watkins, Salah, or Foden captain? I'd probably go Salah or Foden. Probably wouldn't go with Watkins. Start Nunez or Sterling? I'd probably actually start Nunez. I think my live stream has absolutely been popping. We're almost at 400. So thank you guys so much for being around here. Would really appreciate you guys, if you're new here, to like or subscribe. Quickly checking at questions. So Konsa over Gabriel, I would say so, yeah. Higher clean sheet odds for Aston Villa, so I would definitely go with Konsa. Watkins, Salah, Foden, as I said, Salah or Foden are totally fine. I would pick Salah over Watkins captain, definitely. Foden, Watkins, or Salah captain. Everyone's asking the same question, apparently. I would actually definitely go with Foden, because I think there's a bit more risk to sort of gain here. If you think about it, like, most people are actually going to probably be captaining Salah, because everyone owns Salah. And then, actually, I think this is a good opportunity to go Foden or Alvarez captain against Salah, if your expectations for, let's say, Foden and Alvarez are equally high. Konsa or Gabriel? Definitely Konsa. Guys, I just wanted to double check that the quality of the live stream is fine. Do let me know if there's anything wrong with the live stream. Unfortunately, it says that the YouTube is struggling with the smooth streaming, but let me know if the stream quality is fine. Will Cole will play? I think it's pretty likely that he will play. Powell will not start. Powell has pretty much been confirmed to be out. Bench Palmer or Saka? I'd probably bench Saka. Will Nunez start? And if so, should I start him over Gordon? Yeah, I would definitely start Darwin over Gordon easily. Start two Richarlison, Solanke, Palmer. I'd probably start Solanke and Palmer and G. Bench Bowen, Saka, Palmer, Solanke. I'd probably bench Saka, actually. Foden to Garnacho? No, I wouldn't go to Garnacho this week. I would definitely love to have Foden this week. Ivan Toney for January. Yep, he should be back on Gameweek 22, right? So he'll be interesting as an option. Do you think Colwell will play? I think he will. Bowen or Huang? I would go with Bowen. Kudus to Foden. Lovely transfer. Now it's working fine. Yeah, apologies about that if the stream was sort of broken. No 1080. Yeah, sorry guys. I'm not at my home setup, so it might be the case that the live stream is not running at the best sort of capacity. So apologies about the delays. Most people saying it's fine now. Maybe just quickly refresh, guys, if your stream isn't working. Son captain. I still think Son isn't the best captain. I just think this Tottenham squad is a bit weak, if we're being honest. So it's a tough one. I probably wouldn't do it. Start Nunez or Sterling. I'd probably start Nunez. Gordon to Foden or Trippier to Trent. I would definitely go Foden. I like that move more. I think Foden just has a better fixture than Trent, if we're being honest. Dubravka or Leno. Probably neither, if I'm being honest. I would probably choose another goalkeeper, but I think if you're talking about just starting goalkeepers, I would probably go Leno. Foden or Bernardo Silva, I would actually go Foden. Trent or Estupinian, I would go Trent. Start Porro Gusto, I'd probably start Porro. Start Gordon or Dalot, I'd probably start Dalot actually. Dubravka or Leno, I would just go Leno. Doku to Bowen or Odegaard. I'd probably go Bowen. I think Bowen has a better fixture this week. And thank you so much, Brandon. Is Trent a good transfer? Yeah, I think generally speaking, yes, because also there's a pretty high chance that Liverpool will have a double game week on Game Week 25. Who should you bench, Fran? Gabriel, Gusto, or Porro? I'd probably actually bench. Honestly, I would probably bench Gabriel. Why? Is because I think Porro still is a better option than Gabriel generally, and then also I think Gusto has a little bit more attacking chances, and the clean sheet odds are pretty close between the two of them. So yeah, that's pretty much where I would generally land upon. Trent or Estupinian? I would probably go Trent. Start Gabriel Zinchenko. I would go Gabriel. I think, of course, there's always a bit of a doubt that Zinchenko might not start some games, or he could be hooked off like he was in the previous match. So Gabriel. Darwin to ALVAREZ. I think it makes sense if you got two free transfers. Probably not if you have one. Salah or Watkins captain. I would definitely go Salah. Dubravka or Leno. I would go Leno. Start Gabriel or Gusto. I would start Gusto. Estupinian or Gusto. I would still go Gusto actually. Emery, thank you so much for the super chat. Bench one, Saka, Palmer, Solanke. I would actually probably bench Saka. I think Solanke's been incredible. Bournemouth have been incredible. Tottenham defense actually looks horrible. And Saka's still a little bit dismaying as of late. So yeah, I would go Solanke and Palmer. Darwin to ALVAREZ for a hit. I don't think it's worth it for a hit. Darwin or Gordon, definitely Darwin. Bench Saka, Solanke, Palmer. Same question that pretty much Emery asked. I have the same answer for you. Is Nkunku starting? I think he's most likely to start, yes. Because of course he was hooked off a little bit earlier, sort of as a form of rest. So I can still see him starting in the next game. Bench one, Huang or Palmer. I would probably bench. Ooh, tough one. I'd probably still bench Huang. Darwin or Gordon. Darwin for sure. Any team leagues. We haven't gotten any team leagues, unfortunately, so it doesn't really seem like it's good. Yeah. I think Noah, sort of second your thoughts there as well. I mean, Saka, I'm gonna have to keep him. Still a good option on paper, just because there's so many midfielders leaving the game, and I have issues really to deal with in terms of them leaving the game, as opposed to Saka, who of course just permanently plays 90 minutes, but has been dismaying as of late. Trippier or Colwell, I'd start Colwell. Start Palmer or Darwin, I would definitely start Palmer. I don't think it's close. Saka, Bowen or Palmer, I'd probably bench Saka. Bench Pedro Porro or Consta defense. I would actually consider. Yeah, I'd probably still bench Consta, to be honest. Only way to get ALVAREZ is to sell Solanke or Watkins. Worth it? I don't think it's worth it. Bench Pedro Porro or Consta defense. I would probably bench Consta, just barely. But it depends. If you want some risk, for example, because a lot of the effective ownership, within the field is actually within Porro, then start Consta if you actually have a higher risk appetite. Udogi or Gabriel? I would go Gabriel. I think Udogi, for example, really pales in comparison to Porro, so I would go Gabriel in that instance. For example, if it was Porro and Gabriel, I would definitely start Porro over him. Bench Gross or Darwin? I'd bench Gross. Sell Jesus for Alvarez. I think that makes sense. Guardiola thoughts? I think Guardiola's too risky, just in general. You're never benching Porro again. No, I mean it's still Porro at home, and I would definitely, for example, let's say if I had double Arsenal defense last week, I wouldn't be complaining about benching Porro. I really wouldn't have minded, for example, taking the 0-2 defeat versus West Ham. It was just the case that I knew Colwell actually had some fitness issues, and I still started him. That was the major reason why I was regretting, excuse me, benching Porro so much. Captain Salah or Foden. I think Foden, yeah, I would actually prefer Foden just because I think you've got more effective ownership on Foden captaincy. So I think it's a great differential to go with, and I would definitely tempt myself with that for that reason. Only way to get Alvarez to sell Solanke or Watkins, it is not worth it in my opinion, Ben. Captain Bowen, I think it's worthwhile, yes. Sorry, not captaining Bowen. No, I would not really consider captaining Bowen. I just think so many people have better fixtures. Have pens this week as well. It's not really up for me. Should I start Estupiñán or Trippier? I would probably actually go Estupiñán, ironically. I think it's such a bad game for Trippier. Should I start Estupiñán or Trippier? Answer the question already. Captain Alvarez, Foden. I prefer Alvarez still over Foden, but I think it's close. Gordon or Estupiñán to start. I would still go with Estupiñán personally. I think Gordon just has a really bad game. Should I start Estupiñán or Trippier? I'm gonna have to mute you for a bit. I've answered your question, and we don't really want too much spam in the chat. Watkins captain, not for me, but definitely you can think about it. It's still a very good fixture for Watkins. Any leaks so far? No leaks, guys, and pens down in a moment, guys. So do make your transfers if possible. Why bench Colwell? I prefer Gabriel. That's all. And Gabriel has better clean sheet odds. Bench 2, Gabriel, Saliba, Richarlison, Osaka. I would bench your Arsenal defenders. Field Palmer, Osaka. I would go Palmer. Thanks for the stream. Thank you, Stephen, for being around. Appreciate that. Happy New Year to you as well. Happy New Year to everyone in the chat, actually. And please make your transfers now. I'm going to settle with the captaincy on Solanke. Sorry, on Alvarez. I don't know what I was thinking about Solanke. Maybe Solanke lives rent-free in my head. I'd have started Gordon over Guehi. Just think the Crystal Palace fixture is bad, right? So have I screwed it by keeping Haaland since injury? A little bit, if I'm being honest, just because a lot of people were able to move into some recent points in terms of Alvarez, Solanke, and arguably even Watkins or Darwin. So yeah, I think it's been unfortunate, particularly for the people who've been holding Haaland. And I can understand because when you're reaching this deadline, you probably still feel like you need to hold him because he's coming back next week. Yeah, it's a tough one. Gabriel, Gusto, Gordon bench order. I think that's fine. I'd probably go Gusto ahead of Gabriel, but it's close and perfectly fine. Like that all three options are benched if you have better options up top or in your actual starting 11. Colwell trips, I would have gone Colwell. But yeah, this is the deadline, guys. So I'm going to quickly refresh my page. Should be hit with the game is updating. Absolutely, the game is updating. So thank you guys so much for being around. Tried to make it to the live stream. Sorry for being a little bit late. Thanks again, guys, for being on the stream. Sorry about the quality of the stream if it was poor at one point. As I said, unfortunately, I'm still on vacation, so I'll be back home very, very quickly. And apparently now the stream is healthy, which is ironic, of course, because the deadline's here. But anyways, thank you guys so much for being around. Really appreciate the support this season and this year. And we'll look forward to continue making more content and growing the channel as well alongside you guys with your support. So once again, thank you. Hope you guys have some lovely green arrows. Hope you guys take some time to sort of relax and decompress. Happy New Year in advance to all of you. And, hope you spend some lovely time with your families, so that your families are all fine. Take care, guys. And I'll probably be logging off now as it's still my mother's birthday and we're going to go to dinner soon. So take care, guys, and see you.